Welcome back to another episode of the RAG Report, where I bring to you a daily bulletin of information from recruitment owners, advisors, suppliers around the world who are all coming together as one to support recruitment owners get through this terrible time relating to COVID-19. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by David Higgins, the founder and former CEO of Harvey Nash Group. He's a serial non-exec and chairman to recruitment businesses all over the world. This guy has been through ups and downs that many of us could only dream of, and has got a serial amount of wealth that we can tap into. So he's taking the time from a family break in the South Coast. So David, thanks for taking the time and giving it to us today.
Pleasure, and welcome to everyone. And I hope you and your families are staying safe and well in these difficult times.
Yeah. Well,
that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I think it's just adhering to whatever we're told to do, right?
Yeah,
David,
absolutely.
Tell us, paint the picture where you are right now. It looks like a lovely setting in the background, nice little living space. What's going on?
Well, luckily or not, depending on where you are with parenthood. I've got two twins, 3 years old, and living in central London. The prospects of those guys running around for the only free time and exercise and not touching anything infected and coming back uninfected was nil. So we jumped in the car and come all the way down to lovely Cornwall actually, and we'll be here for the foreseeable.
Really? Is that a place you've got, or have you rented somewhere?
No, we rented it through a friend of mine. We're 2 minutes from the sea, and we've got some open space where at least we can walk with not many people and it's safe. And hopefully we'll miss, unfortunately, some of the scenes in London.
Yeah, it's getting. I'm at the end of the Central Line, and I live opposite the tube station, so I literally step out the door, and the tube door is there. And every day I'm used to just people piling in, and it's just I take the dog out now, and it's just no one there. You get the odd person getting on. It is eerie, really. It's a bit crazy.
It's eerie. And hats off to the volunteers in the NHS.
Yeah,
they get total respect.
Totally,
they're a fantastic job.
They're doing an amazing job, and it's hard to even comprehend what they're going through. We're just recruiters, right? We're just business people that are trying to make a living, and these guys are they're actually risking their lives, which is crazy. But people are nervous right now, David. People are scared. People don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. And I know you're a non-exec to businesses. I've met some of them through you. Tell us, what's the general consensus and conversation you're having with your client base right now?
My mantra is plan for the worst and hope for the best. Optimism is great to have, but you really have to take a good, hard, long look at what you've got in the pipeline and then discount it. How much you discount it is down to how strong your client relationships are and how well positioned those clients are to trade themselves through this. Certain pockets will be less hard hit, but others will be severely hit, and they won't know it yet. And if I think of our meeting 2 weeks ago, we were thinking about all sorts of opportunities, and within the space of 10 days, the world's changed, and it'll change again because the news flow will get worse before it gets better.
True. So the kind of individual conversations you're having with recruitment owners, how are they, what sort of questions are they asking you?
Which has been harder hit, perm or contract? There's no doubt that permanent revenues, you've got less visibility anyway, but it seems that the February-March trading has been okay for most, and those revenues are in the bag, so to speak. However, future requirements, future pipelines are diminishing and stalling by the day. So what looks like a 30% dip could be 50% by the end of the week, could be 70%. But if you think about the difficulties of why would someone hire unless it's a critical hire, how can you onboard them? How can they complete the process? Although more people are getting comfortable with video technology, that's more likely to be where firms get hit. So they're asking me, what can I do? You've got to monitor your forecast daily. You've got to talk to your clients weekly. For contract clients, you've really got to be talking to the candidates to get visibility on how were they utilised that week? What have they been told the week before? Because it is a movable feast, and who knows what leveraging or loans or banking covenants are being breached as we speak. You've only got to look at the airlines, and that's one microcosm of a much bigger problem that this whole virus is going to cause.
Are you seeing your client base making big critical decisions now in terms of headcount?
Yeah, there's some big stories around. Some large firms are making significant headcounts. I won't mention them. I think you've got to take everything in isolation. Some firms are slightly more cash rich. Sometimes a lot of recruiters, especially with contract books, do run big facilities. How much stress are those under? And you make your decisions based on, I think, worst case scenario forecasting, and you adjust the cuts, from whether it's staffing, whether you're furloughing staff, exiting, reducing days, reducing salaries, deferring commissions. None of these are palatable, but having been through 9/11, all avenues must be open to you, because at the end of the day, you've got to have a cost base that's aligned to the new world or the new paradigm in terms of forwarding trading to get you through the next three to 6 months.
So can you take us back to 9/11 and what that was like for you at Harvey Nash at the time?
Well, I saw the whole thing unfold on a television screen, because my secretary came in and said, have you seen this plane flying in the World Trade Center? And we kind of went, this must be a joke. But of course, we didn't realize the ripples and ramifications that sent around the world. So it took time for that shock to then be felt by recruiters. But overnight, our US business that we bought 2 years earlier stopped dead.
Wow.
We had 120 people in our San Francisco office, all around the tech, all around hyper hiring of high volume people into big VC funded businesses. That stopped overnight. It really was. The tap turned off, the funding dried up, and we had a headcount of 200 or 300 in the States, all of whom suddenly couldn't fly to see their clients. The candidates couldn't fly to get interviews. Funny enough, the video technology wasn't good then. And our trading dried up with a big overhead of 6-7 offices, 200 or 300 people. Suddenly we were looking down the barrel of the gun, so to speak.
And what did you have to do?
Well, the sad story is, because some super people, within a year, I had an office the size of a football pitch in San Francisco Times Square, and within a year there were 4 people in it.
Wow.
It was that brutal.
Yeah. And again, did you make that decision early enough, or did you try and ride that out?
Well, we were, it's like trying to catch a falling knife. The US was clearly painful. No one knew that then the contagion of that would be a global recession, and then SARS. So literally we were hit, because we had businesses globally, 36 offices around the world. We were hit. So I made 3 significant cuts during that period, and I wish I'd made one big one. So yeah. The key learn from there is plan for the worst, cut deep, and align your cost base to what you think the worst case scenario is, and you'll be in a better position. Now, the difference here is you do have a lot of government initiatives to help businesses. So furloughing people will, I think, ease the pain. Some of the business loans that are out there, the writing's still not dried, so there's still some more clarity to come. But again, that's not free money. It's deferring a lot of things, and you need to you need to demonstrate that you've made the necessary cuts, sacrifices, and taken all the actions, so that when you look for a business interruption loan, the bank and the third party who's lending you the money will go, these guys are in control of their business, they've taken the appropriate actions, we will now consider them as a proper going concern going forward that we're going to fund. If you haven't taken the actions and you're coming them for a bailout, they're just going to say no. Yeah. That's the difference. You need to have taken the actions and demonstrated responsibility for the people to actually give you the due diligence on the business plan to lend you the money.
I've seen a few statuses and a few posts from my FD as well in our internal stuff, is these loans are, they're gonna, is it, you're personally going to be liable for the loan?
That's up for debate, actually. I went attended a webinar for Grant Thornton, and there's a big lobby saying the banks shouldn't take personal guarantees of owners. But it's difficult, isn't it? It really is difficult. The banks can't, could the banks be on the hook after 2008? You probably think yes, but they've got employees and have responsibilities for their well-being. So I don't know the answer, but yes, certainly I think Barclays and RBS have said no, but I think others have said yes. So again, that's a grey area. You can, of course, say no, and sometimes people go okay, but I think that's a personal decision for owners to make.
Yeah. So this furlough scheme, I basically talk about it on every podcast because I think at the moment where we sit, it's still so everyone. Literally today, I've had about 10 conversations with recruitment businesses who furloughed most of their teams. What's your understanding and thoughts on that scheme?
Well, if you've got people that have just joined the firm, are relatively inexperienced, and who can't really self-manage in isolation or working from home, but there's good potential, then it makes sense to furlough them. Or their market's disappeared and they can't transfer to another market. Then it makes sense to furlough them. Conversation I had last week is that actually they're not allowed to work at all, and that the government will and have got in place a process to police that. How they'll do that, I don't know. Although this morning, at an early business conference I heard that actually they could work 1 week out of the 4, which would sort of make sense, wouldn't it? So it's a grey area, which when I had the webinar last week, I was waiting for further clarification.
Yeah, because it makes sense that, there's certain skills that you don't need full time. Like, I don't know, there might be a back office person that, they've gone from being busy 5 days a week to, if you furlough them, you're then leaving yourself short because there's still some
That's
work.
right.
Yeah. So that would make sense. But I still feel like you said it before, it's deferring. It's deferring things.
Everything's deferred. The HMRC, VAT, National Insurance, Corporation Tax. It's just deferring. It's not a holiday. Well, it's a holiday, but it's deferring. So, you need to be cognizant that all you're doing is just pushing that down to a later date, when hopefully trading will resume and business will become profitable, and you'll have to repay that.
My office space has gone. They've given us a 3-month holiday, but it's deferred.
Yeah.
So
it's
going to be, and that, I don't know. My personal feeling is it's a 6-month play. I might be. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see us back in full time in the next 6 months. I think there's so much to do that I just can't see it. But
I had an interesting chat the other day. You should probably plan 3 months as optimistic, 6 months as realistic, and 9 months as pessimistic, and you won't be far wrong. And if I was a betting person, it would probably be between 6 and 3.
Yeah,
you'd hope that 6, but if you're planning for 9, then you're not suddenly going to find yourself in a whole mountain of losses because you're optimistic at 3, and then you're panicking after 4 months.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a couple of anecdotes that are worth passing on to those listening. Cash is king. Liquidity is king. You can't run to the bank, go and run out of money, because actually that's irresponsible, even though it may not be your fault as a business in terms of defaulting payments. But you've got to keep cash. Everyone said keep an eye on cash and cash flows daily. You should probably have board meetings or management meetings or leadership meetings every week to make sure you're all coordinated rather than every month. Someone was saying today they have a Cobra meeting every Monday.
Yeah.
I mean, and another description of this is World War III with an invisible enemy. It is that serious, actually.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be on top of your debtors. If you're thinking about pushing out your payments to suppliers, you have to think about the moral compass, because you're doing to them what someone else is doing to you. It is a bit of a survival instinct. Do you defer it? Do you pay part of it? I think that's on everyone's conscience. But you've got to collect your money, and I wouldn't leave anything too long. In terms of the contract business, you've got to be in touch with the guys on the ground, the guys on the project. They'll tell you they've just marched everyone off the site. They've just stopped us working. They've asked us to only come in 2 days. Those are the things that are going to bite your business if you only find out a week later or when the timesheets come in. You can't do that. You've got to have real-time data to manage and make decisions. And as I say, cash is king.
What about the future of the agency and how, let's say we get to the middle of what you said, the realistic option, 6 months. So let's say you're a 40-man business, you furlough 25 people, you've got your 15 best, most experienced people, but we're struggling for 6 months. Like, what tactics or ideas have you had to deploy in the past that have worked? Whether it's pivoting processes, systems, markets, products. What has worked for you in the past?
Well, there's winners and losers, aren't there? And there will be people that will make money out of this. Now, whether you can turn your hand to those markets is a key challenge. So, food delivery services, pharma, meditech, funny enough, high frequency trading, whether you believe in that, consumable tech. I read, Halfords is doing roaring trade on bikes, home entertainment, so there will be pockets of staff. The government's trying to deploy 500,000 people into supporting the NHS. If you look on, where did I see it? Whether it was on Indeed, because I'm trying to work out where the new ecosystem of growths are. All of the supermarkets are all asking for people to help home delivery. You may not be in that business, but you kind of have to turn your hands to things that are akin to what you're doing, but might be slightly different. Recruitment's a process, and if you're good at it, you should be able to make a living. The other thing to do, of course, is now's the time to do your housekeeping and build your market from scratch. All those times you didn't code your candidates, you haven't got great data on the database, all the admin that you don't do, all the systems you probably don't work to. Why not get fit for purpose now? Because it'll serve you very well. And all the things that you wanted to do that you didn't do because you're too busy, that this is the time to get super fit, so that when the market comes back, you're in pole position.
100%. I think marketing fits into that. The only thing is whether businesses are going to furlough their marketing departments, and then they won't. Because I think a lot of CEOs of businesses that are decent size have probably stepped away from recruitment and marketing themselves. Yeah. Like they oversight, but they're not doing any of the work. And that's the bit that I think, that's what I'm looking at a solution for, is how we can effectively coach and bring CEOs back into the doing of the job. And marketing and sales is almost all you've got left, because everything else has been taken care of. So I think the life and job of an individual at the top of a recruitment business is going to change so dramatically in 2 months. Like, if you haven't got any people to manage and client roles to work on, you're going to go back to grassroots, right?
Well, I think if you can add to that, and you're absolutely right. And the thing is, as you get further up the ladder, you lose a lot of the skills. And to retool yourself, sometimes people can't do that. That's for sure. But if they need to get back on the tools, which is the word often used, in these markets, you've got to do that. And my mantra at Harvey Nash was, guys, you're going to have to work twice as hard for 50% less success, because that's the market we're in, and that's grinding it out. The other thing I was thinking about in terms of a few tidbits was adding on to your comments around retooling the senior management and CEOs, is there's a unique challenge about how to engage your whole work from home teams. They're sitting there like me, they might have young children, homeschooling, they're isolated, or they're on their own, they're not able to get out, asking them to work and keeping them motivated. That's a whole new ball game. And a couple of really smart ideas around, and we actually celebrated a 50th birthday a friend of mine on Saturday, and we had it on our phone. We had 6 or 7 different people from all around the world because we couldn't fly to Stuttgart to get there, which was a shame. But those sort of new technical apps that allow you to share FaceTime and see your team members, recreate some of the things you did in the office virtually. I think that's critical because, we're only 2 weeks in. They say we're locked down for 3 weeks. I'd anticipate it to be more. And 5-6 weeks in, we're going to have to work very hard to keep everyone happy, motivated. Had a really good idea last week, saying they'd created the virtual Thursday night in the pub online. And you got to think out of the box, and that's a whole different set of management challenges. And if you're very creative, Sean, and if you've got ideas around that in terms of staff engagement, I think that's I think that'd be critical to keep us all sane.
100%. Yeah, I think we're looking at all these different things for our clients. We've taken a lot of the strategies we were doing and just basically ripped them up because, like you say, the business isn't the same as it was 2 weeks ago. And we had a client who last week they were supposed to host an event for personal assistants, like they recruit PAs. So they were supposed to host an event for about 50 PAs in London in a event location to listen to a speaker and network, the classic, right? We flipped it to how to become a VA, PA to VA, and we got a very experienced VA online, like we are now, to talk about the tips and tricks. They got over 350 PAs online for an hour, and all of them are now in the database, engaged by the brand. They're super thankful for the information, and it's those ideas that we weren't even thinking as much 2 weeks ago, because it's like, well, people are in the office. Do they really want to go on a webinar and interrupt their day? But now it's like, well, where else are people getting interaction?
Well, I mean, I think webinars are key. You normally people would be doing roundtables, trying to engage senior candidates and key stakeholders and decision makers. I'm spending most of my week on 2 or 3 webinars, getting updated, but more importantly, getting connected to key people. And I think if marketing evolves that product, people are still wanting to talk to recruiters. We will come out of this. We're not sure quite what we'll look like when we do, but we need to be fit for purpose, and the world will go on.
How long did you really suffer pain for in the 2008 crisis? How long did it affect Harvey Nash?
Well, Harvey Nash was different. It was a public company, and therefore the stock markets is very unforgiving. Our share price was at £9.70 and then fell to 50 pence.
Wow.
So that's fairly brutal.
How does that make you feel?
Not great, considering I was a 20% shareholder.
That's what I mean. I think everyone sat there today going, fuck, everything I've built for the last few years is falling apart around me. But that you've been there the stakes were massive.
Yeah.
How did you mentally cope with that? What were your ways of working?
Well, it was all very new to me. I did think, to be honest, as a CEO, I did think, do you know what? I've spent 20 years doing this. Do I need to go through this? And I went home for a weekend and looked long and hard in the mirror, and I said, well, do you know what? I'm CEO. I've got us into this mess. I'm going to take whatever action that's needed to get the firm back on a sound footing. It took me 18 months to do that. 18 months, 2 years. Yeah. And we owed the RBS a lot of money at that stage. And they weren't as friendly as they're being asked to now.
Yeah, I bet.
But it's fearful, it's fear, it's worrying. You do see what you built, what you worked for, diminishing before your eyes, but you've just got to make the right and hard decisions quickly. And actually, you've just got to get on and do the right things. And if you've got to reskill, got to refocus, you've just got to do it.
Yeah. And
stay positive, because the one thing people look at for business owners is, if my boss is panicking, I really am worried. Difficult not to panic, but at least you've got to have a positive outlook.
At least you can panic when you put the video call down, can't you? People can't see you panicking as much. Yeah. As long as you're crystal clear for that half an hour, then you can do what you want in the background. It's. I mean, look, I'm having conversations every day. I'm trying to keep these conversations up. I think the fact is we've gone from going physical podcast to virtual podcast. That was always something I didn't really want to do because I thought it would damage the brand. Now I'm really glad it's happened in a way because we're getting more listeners, we're getting access to people like yourself without too much hassle. And I think that is like one of the signs that, we do adapt very fast as people.
Yeah.
We adapt to our new surroundings. How do you see the recruitment market changing as a result of this? Because this will be different to 9/11 and the recession. You cannot go to work different. So what differences and changes to the operational side of the business do you see?
I mean, that's a very good question, and something that has been asked many times. What's the impact of this? I think most people will look to see whether they need offices. Do we need the same type of office? I'm already having conversations with people who've just said, well, it's coming up for renewal. I'm not using it now. I think if everyone can, the technology is now here to make people, to enable people to be effective. The Brits are quite interesting. Most marriages and relationships come through their work, and that's unique for us as a society. So the workplace is very important, and that's a tradition that's always, for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that will disappear. It may fragment.
When you've got online dating, though, I met my wife on Tinder.
Did you?
Yeah, back in 2014, I was a young recruiter in London, and she luckily swiped the right way. But seriously, you're right. But all those things are moving. Like, I remember going from being a single guy that would go on a night out and spend X amount of money just to be out and be present so that you had a chance of meeting someone, to having a conversation with a few people on your sofa for free. And it's so the same will go for business travel, move into offices. I read something. I don't know if you saw the article in Esquire this weekend. That was
no.
It talked about the 18-month kind of reality of what's going to happen from a business perspective, and it talked about many organizations downsizing their offices, creating like hubs for people to pop into and go.
Which makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, and like mine has already been a bit like that. Already thinking now, how do we reevaluate that? And recruitment has always been more of a physical, face-to-face, sit by your phone job, though, hasn't it? Like there's very little. There's only a few businesses that have ever really been super innovative in the way they model their staff. So can you see those owners, the guys who've been in it 10, 15 years, changing as a result of this?
It's, how do you build your business? You can try and hire a whole lot of expensive, experienced consultants from competitors. That's fraught with challenge and not very easy to do. A lot of people have had success building from the bottom up, graduates, second jobbers, and teaching them recruitment. If you want to get scale, probably the building from the bottom it's expensive and it's risky, but that's a key element for building businesses like recruitment. And I can't see that changing with an off-site model. So I think you'll have to have some sort of hub where these guys can have desk side coaching. There is that management, supervision and control and monitoring to improve skill levels and performance.
Yeah.
So as you say, maybe this does fragment the recruitment market, and there's lots of smaller businesses. But that happened. Funny enough, that happened after 9/11. There aren't very many businesses that have grown to significant sizes since then in recruitment.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know any. The only one potentially would be Frank Group, but that's been backed by an enormous hedge fund on the west coast of the US. Other than that, most people haven't grown.
Why is that?
There's not a new startup.
Because they downsized so much after that they lost their momentum? Or?
I think the margins have changed. The margins have eroded. It's more difficult. And I think owners get to a size where they're quite happy to sell their businesses and let someone else grow it for them, or they're bought by bigger businesses.
Yeah. So that going right through soup to nuts is not necessarily as attractive as it might have been. I guess if you had to give, if I'm a recruitment owner now and I'm in the early stages of my growth, which is typically the audience we have on this show, which I think is changing a bit, but 2 or 3 years in max, right in the 10 people, what would you be telling them? What are the small boutiques? What advice you got?
Well, you probably thought this was going to be a fun. We had 3 years of fun, and now it's all changed. It will get better. I can't tell you when. The market will recover. Firms will certainly go to the wall, and those will be the ones that are not particularly well run, haven't made the brave decisions quickly enough, haven't looked forward and taken a harsh reality check on whether what they're being told is what's happening, haven't collected their money, haven't watched their cash, haven't been disciplined in terms of running their business. So, if you're small and nimble, you can get through this. Actually, it's the bigger firms that have much higher cost bases, are much slower to react, and therefore trade falls before, as they're cutting, their revenues are falling further and faster, and therefore they're the ones where that catches up. If you're nimble, you can cut your costs, and one would hope this is a haircut for 3 months, maybe 6 months. So in the context of the year, it's better to do it soon, now, today. And a lot of owners are taking, significant pay cuts themselves, leading by example. So, I know you won't want to hear this, but when I was CEO of Harvey Nash, publicly quoted company, full board listing on the London Stock Exchange, I didn't take a salary for a year.
Is that due to what was going on?
Yeah, I just felt morally, I wanted to demonstrate I was prepared to sacrifice. And trust me, I worked 14, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week to mend and repair the damage that 9/11 did.
Yeah.
Got to stay close to your clients. Got to stay so close to your candidates. There will be pockets of recruitment. Can you evolve into those? I don't know. And you've got to, you've got to be prepared for the worst.
Yeah. Well, David, that's all we've got time for. And I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out today.
Pleasure.
You got your family there, you're away, you don't have to do this. So thank you. But you did say that, it's time to plug together and support one another. So I'm confident I can speak on behalf of all the listeners and say that it's been really useful and really sincere. And are you open for anyone to reach out and ask you any questions?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And most importantly is keep your family safe. And I wouldn't be frightened. I've encouraged all of my clients, all of my contacts to reach out to other competitors, because we're all in this. And I'd rather everyone saves as many jobs and livelihoods as possible, and get any anecdotal information that will help your business. I don't have all the answers, but hopefully I've given you a few tips today, and I'm happy to add whatever I can to help people through this difficult time.
Wicked. Well, look, I'm sure plenty will take you up on that, and I'll tag you and everything on LinkedIn so that they have the reference.
Look after your families and be safe.
Thank you, David.
That's the important thing.
That's it. And thank you so much. And guys, that's another episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed recording this one. I'd like you, look, I don't ask for a fee to listen to any of this, but I do ask for one thing is to share the podcast, share it with your friends, share it with your colleagues, share it with your competitors, as David has just said. Let's spread the word. Together we're stronger. If you're on iTunes, please do put your ratings in, because Apple will push it up and we'll get across to more people. And I'll be back again tomorrow with more information from another global leader to help you navigate through this difficult time. Stay safe, and I'll see you then.